The year was 2147, and Earth had grown used to silence from the stars. For decades, humanity had sent signals into space, hoping for a reply. But nothing ever came back. People began to think they were alone in the universe, or worse, that no one cared enough to answer. That changed on a quiet Tuesday afternoon when a massive alien ship appeared in the sky without warning. It wasn't just big, it was enormous. The vessel stretched across the horizon like a floating city made of black metal and glowing blue veins. It loomed over Earth's orbit, casting shadows on cities below. News outlets scrambled to cover the event, and within minutes, everyone was glued to their screens. Jack Miller, a retired Marine living on a small farm outside Chicago, watched the scene unfold on his holoscreen with a mix of awe and unease. His teenage daughter, Lily, sat beside him, her eyes wide as she whispered, "Is this real?" Governments around the world went into panic mode. Emergency meetings were called, and leaders tried to figure out what to do next. At the United Nations headquarters in New York, Secretary Alina Carter stood before a room full of anxious delegates. She spoke calmly but firmly, urging nations to stay united. "We don't know their intentions yet," she said, "but we must respond as one planet, not divided countries." Her words brought some comfort, though fear lingered in the air. For most people, the arrival of the aliens felt surreal. Some prayed, others cried, and many simply stared at the sky, wondering if this was the end of life as they knew it. But then, the aliens made contact. A voice boomed through every communication device on Earth, radios, TVs, even personal holoscreens. The message was clear and chilling. Surrender your planet or face annihilation. The voice wasn't human, but it didn't need to be. Everyone understood the meaning behind the words. Panic erupted worldwide. Streets filled with people running for safety, while others barricaded themselves inside their homes. Social media exploded with theories, prayers, and desperate pleas for help. Jack turned off the holoscreen and sighed deeply. He had seen war before, during his time in the Marines, and he recognized the signs of chaos. This wasn't going to end quietly. Lily looked up at him, her voice trembling. "What are we going to do, Dad?" Jack hesitated. He didn't have an answer. Not yet, but something stirred inside him. An old instinct, buried deep since his military days, began to surface. He couldn't just sit there and wait for the world to fall apart. There had to be a way to fight back. That night, as the alien ship continued to hover ominously above Earth, Jack lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. He thought about the weapons humanity had once relied on. Sure, technology had advanced far beyond guns and missiles, but those older tools still existed, hidden away in bunkers and forgotten storage facilities. Maybe, just maybe, they could still be useful. The next morning, Jack decided to act. He reached out to an old friend, Sam Rodriguez, who lived near a decommissioned military base in Texas. Sam was skeptical at first, but after hearing Jack's idea, he agreed to help. Together, they convinced local authorities to let them access the hidden arsenal. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As Jack and Sam worked to gather volunteers, Lily watched her father with admiration. She saw the determination in his eyes and realized he wasn't giving up. Neither would she. Whatever happened next, they would face it together, as a family, and as part of humanity's last stand. The world was holding its breath. After the alien ship's ominous demand for surrender, humanity scrambled to decide what to do next. Some leaders wanted to negotiate, hoping diplomacy could prevent disaster. Others argued that fighting back was the only option. In the end, a compromise was reached. A delegation of humans would board a shuttle and meet the aliens aboard their massive vessel. Dr. Rachel Morgan, a physicist known for her groundbreaking work on quantum propulsion systems, was chosen to lead the team. She wasn't a soldier or a politician, but her scientific expertise made her invaluable. Joining her were diplomats, linguists, and engineers, all handpicked by Secretary Alina Carter. The group boarded the shuttle with mixed emotions, hope, fear, and determination etched on their faces as they ascended into the sky. When they arrived at the alien ship, the sheer size of it overwhelmed them. Up close, it looked even more menacing than it had from Earth. The surface shimmered with an unnatural metallic sheen, and glowing blue lines pulsed like veins beneath the hull. As the shuttle docked, the humans prepared themselves for whatever awaited inside. The airlock opened with a hiss, and the team stepped cautiously into the alien craft. The interior was unlike anything they had ever seen. The walls seemed alive, shifting slightly as though breathing. Strange symbols floated in the air, glowing faintly. It felt alien in every sense of the word, cold, foreign, and utterly incomprehensible. Then they saw them. Towering insectoid creatures emerged from the shadows, their bodies covered in iridescent exoskeletons that reflected light in eerie patterns. Their eyes, large, multifaceted, and unblinking, stared down at the humans with clear disdain. One of the aliens stepped forward, taller than the rest, and introduced itself through a translator device. "I am Krelthak," it said, its voice deep and mechanical. "You will address me as your superior." The humans exchanged nervous glances but remained composed. Dr. Morgan stepped forward, speaking calmly despite the tension in the room. "We come in peace," she said. "We wish to understand your intentions and find a way to coexist." Her words hung in the air, met with silence. Krelthak tilted its head, studying her as if she were an insect under a microscope. Then it laughed, a harsh, grating sound that sent shivers down everyone's spines. "Coexist," it sneered. "Your species is primitive, weak, and unworthy of this planet. Surrender now, or we will destroy you." The humans tried to reason further, explaining Earth's history, culture, and achievements. But Krelthak showed no interest. Instead, it grew impatient, cutting them off mid-sentence. To prove its point, the alien leader ordered a demonstration of their power. A view screen appeared, showing a live feed of Earth below. Without warning, a beam of energy shot out from the ship, striking an uninhabited island. The land exploded in a blinding flash, leaving nothing but a smoldering crater behind. The humans recoiled in horror. They had hoped for understanding, but instead, they faced pure arrogance and contempt. Krelthak dismissed them with a wave of its clawed hand, ordering them to leave. Shaken but determined, the delegation returned to Earth, carrying grim news. Back on the ground, the survivors of the mission delivered their report to Secretary Carter and other world leaders. The message was clear. The aliens had no intention of negotiation. They viewed humanity as inferior and planned to take Earth by force. Fear rippled through the globe as people realized war was inevitable. Jack Miller heard about the failed meeting while working in his barn. He clenched his fists, anger boiling inside him. "They think we're weak," he muttered under his breath. "But they don't know us yet." Nearby, Lily overheard him and nodded silently. She believed in her father's plan, even if it meant using old weapons, and she was ready to help in any way she could. As night fell, Jack stared up at the alien ship hanging above the horizon. Its presence loomed large, casting a shadow not just over the land, but over humanity's future. But Jack refused to give up. If the aliens wanted a fight, they'd get one. And they might soon learn that Earth still had a few tricks left. Jack Miller knew they couldn't rely on modern weapons to fight the aliens. Humanity's current technology was no match for the invaders' advanced shields and energy beams. But Jack remembered something most people had forgotten. Earth still had stockpiles of old weapons buried deep underground. These relics from the past included nuclear missiles, railguns, and experimental EMP devices designed decades earlier. Though outdated, they might hold the key to evening the odds. The idea came to him late one night as he pored over old military manuals he'd kept from his time in the Marines. He realized that these older weapons were built differently, with simpler mechanics that might not be affected by the aliens' sophisticated defenses. If they could get their hands on them and refurbish them quickly, they might stand a chance. The thought gave him hope, and he wasted no time reaching out to an old friend who could help. Sam Rodriguez lived near a decommissioned military base in Texas. Back in the day, Sam had been an engineer, fixing everything from tanks to aircraft. Now retired, he spent his days tinkering with machines in his workshop. When Jack called him, Sam listened carefully, then agreed to meet. Together, they drove to the base and convinced local authorities to grant them access to the hidden arsenal. At first, the officials were skeptical, but when Jack explained his plan, they reluctantly gave in. They didn't have many options left. Inside the bunker, Jack and Sam found rows of dusty crates filled with weapons from another era. There were missile launchers, EMP devices, and even prototypes of railguns that had never seen combat. It was like stepping back in time. Sam whistled softly as he inspected the equipment. "This stuff is ancient," he said, running a hand over a rusted railgun. "But if we can fix it up, it might just work." Word spread quickly about what Jack and Sam were doing, and soon volunteers began showing up to help. Among them was Mia Chen, a young mechanic with a knack for fixing anything mechanical. Her hands moved deftly as she worked on restoring the EMP devices, her brow furrowed in concentration. Another volunteer, George Harris, was a grizzled war veteran who had seen action during Earth's last major conflict. His experience proved invaluable as he taught the others how to handle the weapons safely. Lily also joined the effort, determined to contribute however she could. She helped organize supplies and keep track of inventory, ensuring everyone had what they needed. Though she was young, her determination earned her respect from the team. Jack watched her with pride, knowing she was learning lessons far beyond what any school could teach. As the days passed, the group worked tirelessly to bring the old weapons back to life. They cleaned rust-off metal parts, replaced damaged components, and tested each piece of equipment to make sure it functioned properly. The bunker buzzed with activity as people shared ideas and solved problems together. For the first time since the aliens arrived, there was a sense of purpose in the air. Dr. Rachel Morgan, fresh from her failed diplomatic mission aboard the alien ship, heard about Jack's project and decided to join the team. Her scientific knowledge complemented the practical skills of the others, and she quickly became an essential part of the operation. "We need to think creatively," she told the group one evening. "These weapons alone won't be enough. We have to use them in ways the aliens won't expect." Her words stuck with everyone, inspiring them to push harder. They began brainstorming strategies, combining the EMP devices with railguns to create hybrid weapons capable of disabling alien shields. It was risky, but it was their best shot. Late at night, as the team took breaks to rest, Jack stepped outside the bunker to look at the stars. The alien ship still hung ominously above Earth, a constant reminder of the threat they faced. But Jack felt a flicker of hope. Humanity had always been resourceful, finding solutions even in the darkest times. This time would be no different. With grit, ingenuity, and teamwork, they would show the aliens that Earth wasn't ready to give up just yet. The team worked around the clock, knowing time was running out. Each day that passed brought them closer to the aliens' next move, and no one wanted to wait around to find out what that would be. Jack Miller stood in the middle of the bunker, watching as Mia Chen fine-tuned an EMP device, while George Harris tested a refurbished railgun. Dr. Rachel Morgan sat at a makeshift desk nearby, sketching diagrams and jotting down notes. The air buzzed with urgency, but there was also a quiet confidence growing among them. Rachel had been thinking hard about how to use their weapons effectively. She knew the alien shields were nearly impenetrable, but she believed the EMP devices could weaken or even disable them temporarily. If they timed it right, the railguns could then strike before the shields came back online. It was a risky plan, but it was all they had. "We need to hit them fast and hard," she said during one of their strategy meetings. "If we can take out a few of their smaller ships, it might force them to retreat, or at least give us breathing room." Jack nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. He suggested dividing the team into smaller groups and sending them to strategic locations around the world. That way, they could launch coordinated attacks from multiple directions, overwhelming the aliens. The idea was risky. Splitting up meant fewer people per team, but it also increased their chances of success. Everyone agreed it was worth a try. Secretary Alina Carter, though initially hesitant, eventually gave her approval for the operation. She understood the stakes and knew humanity couldn't afford to sit back and do nothing. However, she insisted the mission remain covered. Public morale was fragile, and news of such a desperate plan could spark panic if it leaked. Jack promised to keep things quiet, knowing trust was crucial. With the plan in place, the team loaded their makeshift weapons onto cargo planes bound for key locations. Each group carried a mix of EMP devices, railguns, and explosives, along with enough supplies to last a few days. Before leaving, Jack gathered everyone for a final briefing. His voice was steady as he spoke. This isn't going to be... The invasion began without warning. One moment, the skies were eerily quiet, with only the alien ships hovering ominously above Earth. The next, swarms of smaller vessels descended like locusts, unleashing devastating plasma cannons that tore through cities. Buildings crumbled into dust, streets erupted in flames, and people ran for their lives in terror. The aliens showed no mercy, striking military bases, power plants, and civilian areas alike. It was chaos, pure and unrelenting. Jack Miller's team watched the destruction unfold from their hidden positions. They had been waiting for the right moment to strike, but seeing the devastation made their stomachs churn. Jack clenched his fists as he looked through binoculars at a nearby city engulfed in smoke. "They're not just attacking," he muttered under his breath. "They're trying to break us." Dr. Rachel Morgan stood beside him, her face pale but resolute. She knew time was running out. If they didn't act soon, the aliens would crush humanity's will to fight back. "We have to move now," she said firmly. "If we wait any longer, it might be too late." Jack nodded, knowing she was right. He gave the signal, and the teams around the world sprang into action. Under cover of darkness, Jack's group approached a cluster of alien ships stationed near Chicago. The vessels hovered silently, their glowing hulls casting an eerie light over the ruined landscape. Using portable EMP devices, they positioned themselves strategically, staying hidden behind rubble and abandoned vehicles. Miao Chen crouched beside one of the devices, her hand steady as she adjusted the settings. George Harris kept watch, his rifle ready in case they were spotted. "Everyone stay sharp," Jack whispered into his radio. "Remember the plan. EMP first, then railguns. We only get one shot at this." His voice was calm but firm, keeping everyone focused despite the tension. Miles away, other teams echoed his words, preparing to execute the same strategy. When everything was in place, Jack gave the order. Maya activated the EMP device, and a pulse of energy surged outward, invisible but powerful. For a brief moment, nothing happened. Then the alien ship's shields flickered and collapsed, leaving them exposed. Jack didn't hesitate. He aimed the railgun carefully, took a deep breath, and fired. The projectile streaked through the air, piercing the hull of one of the ships with a deafening crash. Explosions lit up the night sky as the vessel erupted in flames. Cheers erupted among Jack's team, but there was no time to celebrate. The other groups launched their attacks simultaneously, hitting alien ships in strategic locations worldwide. In Siberia, a team destroyed a supply ship carrying reinforcements. In Africa, another group disabled a command vessel, cutting off communication between the invaders. Each successful strike weakened the aliens' grip on Earth. From her position at the bunker, Lily monitored the operation, relaying updates to the teams. Her heart raced as she listened to reports of victories and losses. Not every attack went as planned. Some teams were ambushed by alien drones, while others missed their targets entirely. But even so, the overall impact was undeniable. Humanity was fighting back, and the aliens weren't prepared for such coordinated resistance. Back in New York, Secretary Elena Carter watched the news with a mix of relief and dread. Footage of burning alien ships spread across social media, igniting hope among survivors. People who had been hiding in fear began to rally, inspired by the bravery of Jack's team. Resistance cells formed overnight, armed with whatever weapons they could find. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity felt like it had a chance. But the battle was far from over. Krelthak, the alien leader, grew furious as reports of the attacks reached him. He hadn't expected Earth to retaliate so effectively. Destroy them, he roared, ordering his forces to crush the resistance. More ships descended, raining fire on cities and hunting down the human attackers. Despite the renewed assault, Jack's team pressed on. They knew they couldn't afford to stop. Not now. As dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of orange and pink, Jack looked at the smoldering wreckage of the alien ship they had destroyed. It wasn't much compared to the vast fleet still orbiting Earth, but it was proof that humanity wasn't powerless. They had struck the first blow, and they wouldn't stop until the invaders were driven away or defeated. The success of the initial attacks gave humanity a glimmer of hope, but it also infuriated the aliens. Krelthak, the insectoid leader, refused to believe that Earth's primitive weapons could pose a real threat. He ordered his forces to retaliate with overwhelming force, determined to crush the resistance before it spread further. The skies darkened as more alien ships descended, unleashing waves of plasma fire on cities and military bases. The battle for Earth was far from over. Jack Miller's team regrouped in the ruins of Chicago, their faces streaked with dirt and exhaustion. They had managed to destroy one alien ship, but the cost was high. George Harris had been injured during the fight when debris from an explosion struck him. Mia Chen patched him up as best she could, but they all knew he wouldn't be able to keep up much longer. Still, George refused to sit out. "I'm not done yet," he growled, gripping his rifle tightly. "We've got work to do." Dr. Rachel Morgan studied data collected from the destroyed alien ship. She examined fragments of its hull and analyzed recordings of the attack, searching for weaknesses. Her eyes lit up when she discovered something crucial. The aliens' armor plating was vulnerable along certain seams where energy conduits ran close to the surface. If they could target those areas, they could maximize the damage caused by their railguns. "This is it," she said excitedly, showing her findings to Jack. "We can use this information to take them down faster." Jack nodded, his mind already forming a new plan. They couldn't keep fighting blindly. They needed precision. He divided the team into smaller units, assigning each a specific role based on Rachel's research. Some would focus on disabling shields with EMP devices, while others would aim for the weak points on the alien ships. Every shot counted, and they couldn't afford mistakes. Meanwhile, Lily worked tirelessly at the bunker, coordinating communications between the scattered teams. She relayed Rachel's findings to resistance cells around the world, ensuring everyone had the same intel. Her voice remained calm and steady despite the chaos unfolding outside. When updates came in about successful strikes or casualties, she handled them with quiet determination, earning the respect of even the most seasoned fighters. As the days passed, humanity's resistance grew stronger. Civilians joined the fight, using whatever tools they had, cars rigged with explosives, homemade flamethrowers, even old hunting rifles. Survivors banded together, forming militias inspired by Jack's example. Social media buzzed with stories of bravery, spreading hope among those still holding on. People began to realize that the aliens weren't invincible, and that gave them courage. Krelthak watched the growing defiance with mounting frustration. He hadn't anticipated humanity's resilience or their ability to adapt so quickly. To regain control, he ordered a massive assault on major population centers. Alien ships descended en masse, raining destruction on anything that moved. Cities burned, and thousands perished, but the resistance refused to back down. Instead, they used the invaders' aggression against them, luring ships into ambushes and striking when least expected. One such ambush took place near the outskirts of Los Angeles. A team led by Mia Chen hid among the wreckage of skyscrapers, waiting patiently as an alien patrol swept through the area. When the ships passed overhead, Maya activated the EMP device. The shields faltered, and the team opened fire with railguns, aiming directly at the weak points Rachel had identified. 2 ships went down in flames before the aliens realized what was happening. By then, it was too late. Back in Chicago, Jack prepared for another mission. This time, the target was bigger, a heavily guarded command vessel responsible for coordinating the alien forces in the region. Taking it out would disrupt their operations and buy humanity valuable time. The plan was risky. The ship was surrounded by drones and smaller escorts. But Jack knew they had no choice. "We'll hit them hard and fast," he told his team. "Get in, disable the ship, and get out before they know what hit them." George limped alongside them, insisting on joining despite his injuries. "You're gonna need every gun you can get," he said with a grim smile. Jack didn't argue. He knew how stubborn George could be. And right now, they needed all the help they could muster. As night fell, the team moved into position, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Above them, the alien command vessel loomed like a dark cloud, its glowing veins pulsing ominously. Jack tightened his grip on the railgun, his jaw set with determination. They had proven they could fight back once. Now, they were ready to do it again, and show the aliens that Earth wasn't going to surrender without a fight. The attack on the alien command vessel was a gamble, but Jack Miller and his team had no other choice. If they succeeded, it would cripple the invaders' ability to coordinate their forces in the region. If they failed, the aliens would crush them without mercy. As the team crept through the shadows toward the massive ship, every sound, the crunch of gravel underfoot, the distant hum of alien drones, felt deafening. Jack led the way, his eyes scanning the area for any sign of danger. Mia Chen carried the EMP device, her hand steady despite the weight of the equipment. Behind her, George Harris limped along, clutching his rifle with a determined grip. Dr. Rachel Morgan stayed close, holding a tablet that displayed a live feed of the alien ship's weak points. "Remember," she whispered, "aim for those seams near the energy conduits. That's where we'll do the most damage." Everyone nodded silently, their focus razor-sharp. When they reached their position, a cluster of abandoned buildings just outside the ship's perimeter, they paused to assess the situation. The vessel was surrounded by smaller scout ships and patrolling drones, their glowing lights cutting through the darkness. It seemed impossible to get close without being detected. But Jack had anticipated this. He signaled for Mia to activate the EMP device. She flipped the switch, and a pulse of energy rippled outward, invisible but powerful. For a brief moment, the alien ship's shields flickered, leaving them vulnerable. "Now," Jack hissed, raising his railgun. The team opened fire, targeting the weak points Rachel had identified. The first shot hit its mark, sending a cascade of sparks across the hull of the command vessel. Explosions followed as the other team members fired in quick succession. Alien drones scrambled to respond, but the sudden assault caught them off guard. One by one, the smaller ships fell, their glowing cores erupting in bursts of light. Inside the bunker, Lily monitored the operation, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she relayed updates to the team. "You're doing great," she said into her headset. "Keep pushing. They're retreating." Her voice was calm, masking the anxiety bubbling beneath the surface. She knew how dangerous this mission was, but she also trusted her father and his team to pull it off. Back at the scene, the battle raged on. George took down a drone with a well-placed shot, then collapsed against a wall, breathing heavily. His injuries were slowing him down, but he refused to stop. "I'm fine," he snapped when Jack glanced at him. "Focus on the ship." Jack hesitated but nodded, knowing there was no time to argue. As the team pressed forward, they encountered heavier resistance. A squad of alien soldiers emerged from the wreckage, their weapons crackling with energy. Jack shouted for everyone to take cover, but the aliens advanced relentlessly. Just when it seemed like they were outnumbered, reinforcements arrived. Local militia fighters who had been inspired by Jack's efforts. Together, they pushed back the alien forces, clearing a path to the command vessel. With seconds to spare, Jack fired the final shot, aiming directly at the ship's core reactor. The impact sent a shockwave rippling through the structure, and within moments, the entire vessel began to collapse. Flames erupted from its hull as it crashed to the ground, shaking the earth beneath their feet. The team cheered, exhausted but triumphant. They had done it. They had taken down the command vessel. Word of their success spread quickly, boosting morale across the globe. Resistance cells celebrated the victory, using it as proof that humanity could win. Even Secretary Elena Carter allowed herself a small smile as reports flooded in. The tide was turning, and though the war was far from over, hope was spreading. Krelfak, however, was livid. He hadn't expected Earth's defenders to adapt so quickly or strike with such precision. From his throne aboard the mothership, he vowed to destroy humanity once and for all. But Jack and his team weren't afraid. They had proven that even outdated weapons and sheer determination could change the course of history, and they were ready to keep fighting. For Earth, for freedom, and for a future worth saving. The victory against the alien command vessel gave humanity a much-needed boost, but Jack Miller knew it was only a temporary reprieve. The aliens still held the upper hand with their superior technology and numbers. To truly turn the tide, they needed to strike at the heart of the invasion. The massive mothership looming above Earth. It was a daunting task, one that seemed nearly impossible. But Jack had never been one to back down from a challenge. Dr. Rachel Morgan proposed a daring plan: infiltrate the mothership using a stolen alien scout ship. If we can get inside, she explained, we might be able to disable its core reactor or sabotage its systems. That could cripple their entire fleet. The idea was risky. Boarding the mothership meant walking straight into enemy territory. But it was their best shot at ending the war quickly. After some debate, the team agreed to move forward with the plan. Jack, Rachel, Mia Chen, George Harris, and a few others volunteered for the mission. They knew the odds were against them, but none of them hesitated. As they prepared the stolen scout ship, Lily approached her father, worry etched on her face. "You don't have to do this," she said softly. "There's got to be another way." Jack knelt down to meet her eye level, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I wish there was," he replied. "But if we don't stop them now, they'll keep coming until there's nothing left. I'm doing this for you, for everyone." Lily nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. She wanted to argue, to beg him not to go, but deep down, she understood why he had to. Instead, she hugged him tightly and whispered, "Come back, okay?" With heavy hearts, the team boarded the scout ship and launched into the sky. The mothership loomed ahead, an intimidating fortress of black metal and glowing veins. As they approached, Jack felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The ship was enormous, far larger than anything they had faced before. Its surface bristled with weapons turrets and patrol drones, all scanning for intruders. Using codes extracted from the scout ship systems, Rachel managed to bypass the initial security checks and dock safely. The team disembarked cautiously, stepping into a labyrinth of twisting corridors, lit by pulsating blue lights. The air inside was cold and metallic, carrying a faint hum that vibrated through their bones. Alien symbols floated in the air, shifting and rearranging themselves like living things. Every step felt like walking deeper into a predator's lair. They moved quietly, sticking to the shadows and avoiding patrols of insectoid soldiers. At one point, George spotted a group of aliens heading their way and quickly signaled for the team to take cover. They pressed themselves against the wall, holding their breath as the patrol passed by without noticing them. Too close, George muttered under his breath, clutching his rifle tighter. Their first objective was to plant explosives along critical points in the ship's infrastructure. Rachel guided them using a handheld scanner, pinpointing areas that would cause maximum damage. Mia worked quickly, setting charges with practiced efficiency while Jack kept watch. Each explosion they triggered sent tremors through the ship, alerting the aliens to their presence. Alarms blared, and red warning lights flashed throughout the corridors. As they neared the reactor chamber, the resistance grew fiercer. Alien drones swarmed around them, forcing the team to fight their way forward. Bullets ricocheted off walls, and energy blasts seared the air. George took a hit to his leg, but refused to slow down, gritting his teeth as he limped alongside the others. "Just a scratch," he growled when Rachel tried to check on him. Finally, they'd reached the reactor chamber, a vast room filled with towering machinery and glowing conduits. In the center stood the core reactor, pulsing with raw energy. Rachel began setting up the final charge, her hands trembling slightly as she worked. "This is it," she said. "When this goes off, we need to be long gone." But escape wouldn't be easy. Dozens of alien soldiers blocked their path, their weapons trained on the intruders. Jack glanced at his team, then back at the reactor. There was no time to hesitate. With a nod, he shouted, "Do it." Rachel detonated the charge, and the room erupted in chaos. The team turned to flee, knowing their survival depended on speed and luck.